Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.
Thank you everyone for your time today. It's an absolute pleasure. Chris, beginning with you, you have found this lane of creating content that uplifts, that educates, that really takes people's thinking beyond what they previously thought. How did you become attached to this project, and did you have a sort of a starting point or a line that you wanted to walk to make sure this was its own unique property, different from what we've seen in the past?
Yeah, I mean, this project really came from my my sleepless nights. I had been thinking for the last few years that we needed a common language again in this country to talk about governance and about what it is to be an American, and take civics back from the idea of it being a partisan conversation. And so when I got to Netflix, I ended up having a conversation with Kenya, who I've known for quite a few years. And we both were like, hey, let's think about doing this. And then we asked the Obamas if they would join us. And once you have that dream team producing something, you're ready to go make something great, which I hopefully we did.
I would love to scroll through your cell phone and say, oh, I called them, it was all good. When your music is so rich in emotion and where you sing from and where you perform from, but in this type of performing, you're educating and it's knowledge-based. How difficult was this process, if at all, for you to craft music that was rooted in education versus emotion or mobility or those types of other feelings?
Well, you know, I thought about that, but I didn't really think about, you know, how specific it was going to be, you know, educational, more so than I thought about the subject of being an active citizen and how that appeals to me and how I can relate to that in my own life, and talking about it in song. You know, it was like, at first I definitely thought like, okay, this is going to be challenging. But then, you know, I started to think, well, this is something we've all felt, you know, not having a voice or feeling like, you know, because I come from this, or because I'm young, or I'm this, that I can't make a difference in my community or in the world. And I really came from that perspective, because we've all been there. And I thought, like, you know, when I started to look at the list of things that the things that it meant to be an active citizen, I was like, wait, I knew this already. Oh yeah, that's being an active citizen. And I started to relate to it. So, you know, sometimes learning about civics can be very intimidating, but when you bring music and you bring a personal connection to it, and your daily life to it, then it's understandable. You can connect to it, and you can want to learn about it. And so kind of thought about the education aspect last, because if people listen to a song that's super catchy and they're listening to it, they're digesting it. You're hearing the message, whether you like it or not, you know, and I strongly believe music is that powerful. So yeah, definitely a challenge at first, but then it got easy and fun.
That's awesome. Peter, each of the episodes have their own feel, their own energy, their own sound. When you first heard her song and you began to work with the team to shape the episode, to bring it to life, what were you rooted in to make sure they were working in tandem with each other?
For me, there was so much in the song just right off the bat that was that spurred so many thoughts and ideas, because it was all there. The lyrics really laid out a narrative right there, and it was a narrative that had an emotion behind it, which is the thing that really, I think, made it easier for me, I know, to start to tell a little story, you know, and it was a story about a young woman, you know, who wondered, you know, if anyone would ever hear her voice and how she could make that voice heard. That dictated everything else about the piece. You know, the look and feel of it, the way we used color just to show this progression from, you know, isolation to, you know, a mass movement, the way our transitions kind of flow one into the other, the images that you see in the song, you know, the tree, you know, she's going to a city council meeting just like she talks about in the song, you know, so there was so much in the song that just lent itself to almost a direct translation. And I think that worked with this one because H.E.R found a way to take this idea and make it really simple, powerful, and emotional. You can immediately relate to that idea. So we were able to be very clear with our images and the way that we presented the animation in the piece.
Chris, for choosing the topics that will make the show for each episode, each installment, was there a huge vetting process, or was it an easy way to narrow it down to these specific topics, these specific episodes?
It wasn't so easy. There were some that just seemed really clear, like balance of power and the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. But we had 2 civics teachers who worked with us. We had 2 professors who specifically work in this area, one of who talks about the idea of lived civics, that civics is not already written and in stone and by old dead white men. It is happening all around us right now, and it is active and it is moving. And then we worked with the president, and he was really involved in picking the 10 topics. He actually created the topic of active citizenship. He came back and said he thought that anthem was super important, and he was right. And then the president and I were the only 2 who wanted taxes. But once he got on board for that, we got taxes as one of the topics, which I think is actually really relevant for kids this age, because they're getting their first paycheck and going like, oh, wait a minute, I thought I was getting this much an hour. And Cordae just did an amazing job making that relevant and an incredible song.
Yeah, I remember my first paycheck in college and asking, who is FICA? I have no idea who that is.
Exactly.
My money.
And it was interesting that it kept feeling like a topic that was so distant from this age group, but actually, like, I loved that Cordae was like, oh no, I get it. That's actually very on point.
Yeah, he probably knows about some taxes now for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to say.
And I hope everyone learns about taxes. With Cordae's song and all the other songs, your song is beautiful, it's perfect, and I've been humming it already because it is very catchy. Mm-hmm. But if you could switch with any of the other artists and do their topic, or which other topics would have intrigued you to kind of dive into?
That's a great question. I never thought about that. I guess I would talk about taxes, because that is something I'm definitely very passionate about. And it's easy to be upset and to say all these things about taxes without actually knowing anything about it. So to be able to educate people so they know ahead of time, so they're not going, oh, wait a minute, what's going on? To really educate people on that. I think I would be passionate about it. I think I can make that sound good.
Oh my God, we're going to have to do a second run on taxes.
I mean, it's so jazzy and it's so relevant because like you said, people get upset about taxes until they realize where all of the funds of taxation go. And It's more of a who is managing where the taxation dollars go, more so than the taxes themselves. So very, very relevant for our young people. Peter, I love the style of the illustration. It looked like it was very like mosaic and colorful and fun and very attention getting. When you look at the finished product, what are you most proud of when you see it in its totality?
Oh, wow. I got to work with fantastic artists and designers at a company called Buck, which worked on a lot of the pieces. But they were amazing. They were perfect collaborators. They could take an idea that I had and say, that's great. Oh, and what about this? And I would like, oh man, you can instantly see how that would make it even better. So I think the thing I love seeing, the very first images I had in mind, kind of plussed and made even better by collaborating with Buck and seeing how close that still got to the feeling that I was after in the first place. And for me, just seeing, I was really interested in doing something where color played a big part, and just seeing how the progression of color works in this song really, like, for me, it really like felt like, yes, this is exactly the emotional uplift that I wanted it to have, that the song kind of gave me. To be able to tell that story through color for me is just really, really satisfying. So I'm really happy about that.
I loved it. I loved all the episodes I've seen already. I can't wait to see the others. Thank you so much for your time. H.E.R, congratulations on your Oscar. You are a queen indeed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, you all. And I can't wait for other people to see it too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you so much, Andra LaBeouf, Black Girl Nerds. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time. I love this so much because I am in that age bracket. I'm sure everyone's asked ad nauseum about the other one from back in the day, but we want to talk about this one. Beginning with you, Kyle. When you sing to educate people, it's a different kind of grounding point versus singing about emotion or love or any of those things. Where do you ground yourself as a performer when you're singing to educate? What's the starting point for you to shaping that sound?
Sorry, one sec. There's a very large fire truck riding by.
Oh, truck. I was going to say there's a large fire. Get out!
No, yeah, sorry, it's gone now. You know, I always try to start the beginning of my songs and my songwriting process of making music always starts from trying to say some honest, right? Truth. When I was making Kyle songs, just expressing Kyle, I was like, okay, as a rapper, let me not rap about like the topics everybody raps about because I don't participate in any of that. Let me just rap about what I actually do, you know? And that is what's worked for my music career. And so when approaching this song, I really needed to become educated on the topic of state government versus federal government. So I could really form an opinion. And then I could really talk about that opinion from like an honest, truthful place. And then hopefully through doing that, it will like actually affect kids. Because young people, just people in general can always tell when you're just like lying, you know, or when you actually don't know something or you don't care about something. So before writing the song and just like trying to cover the topics and be done with it, I was like, I need to actually form an opinion on this topic so I can like, you know, deliver it in an honest way.
Mm-hmm. I think our most recent elections have taught us the value of being fully invested in our local politics, in addition to our federal politics, if we weren't already. Tim, in the shaping, in your directorial process for this episode, each one has its own unique sound, its own unique feel. What was the jumping off point for you for bringing Kyle's music to life in the physical form?
It had energy to it, and it had energy to it, had a lot of personality to it, and a little bit of humor. I did a little more of a deep dive on Kyle too, and I remember like going and checking out your IG feed, and I was like, oh, Kyle's a pretty humorous. He's a funny guy. Doesn't take himself that seriously. So I knew I wanted to have kind of all that in there, have it really be a fun thing to watch that was a little light, that, you know, and had the song really hits that love song of just like, you know, two lovers that are fighting and then work it out at the end. And I want to bake that all into a beautiful visual cake.
Well, you did that for sure. Kyle, when I look at the younger people, I have a teenager, and I look at how more attuned they are to government, to politics, to what's happening via the gift of social media. They can see more ideas. Do you think that this generation is more informed, or is it just by virtue of just seeing the information?
I believe that this generation is a lot more informed. I would say that this generation really has a yearning to figure out ways to exercise their power. You know, I think this generation, above all else, really wants to be heard and really wants to be involved. And I think that that's why a project like We the People is so important and so awesome, because it's literally giving them the tools to go exercise all their rights as Americans, you know? Because this generation, if they can get the information, they would love it, you know, and they will use it. So I would say this generation is really informed. They care about exercising their power in every aspect. You know, usually when I see somebody organizing some sort of event to vote for a specific DA or vote for a specific law that has to do with their town or their community, it's always young people. You know, they're the very passionate ones, and I think it's really inspiring to see.
It absolutely is. And I think of people like Fred Hampton, who also was very young when he became heavily involved with motivating people and pushing along the process. Tim, for a project like this, there's some huge names, political names attached to the Obamas are attached to this process. How do you celebrate? It's a big win for a director. Creatively, it's a win. The attachment to it's a win. How did you celebrate being involved in this project?
I I haven't yet. I mean, throughout, I was really happy. I had a hard time sleeping initially when I first heard of the project. I was like, oh, I'm going to work with all these cool people. And, but I'm going to take a nice long trip to New York coming up here. You know, the pandemic happened in the middle, and my wife is from the Bronx, and I lived there for 10 years. So I'm really looking forward to, now that the project is over, going, okay, let's unplug and go spend 10 days in Fort Greene. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be great.
That's awesome.
Kyle, so when you wrote this song, how easy or difficult was it for you? Were there tons of revision? Because it's a lot of information to present to people with your voice and your authenticity on it. Was it a difficult process for you? Did you have to go into yourself and separate yourself from people? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was definitely a challenging process for sure. I always try to make sure that all my songs are like pretty fun and like easy to listen to, and choosing a topic like you know, the difference between state and federal government was very difficult to work that into like a small digestible song, because there's so much information. There's so many things to talk about. And that was the part for me, is there's so much research I could do. You know, I'm like up at night, like reading everything, as many articles as I can find. I'm talking to people. And there was still so much more to learn. So I think the hardest part was like learning when to cut it off and be like, okay, the song is done. You covered enough topics. There's a bunch more, but you're done with it, Kyle. That's it. That's all you're going to talk about, because there's really so much information when you go diving. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge to write this song in an accurate way.
Mm-hmm. And Tim, for you, based on your own level of political awareness, were there any things in Kyle's song that brought in your mind like, wow, I didn't know that, as you listened to his song and how he articulated these differences between governments? Did you learn something new by listening to the way he presented it?
Yeah, I think the tension, you know, each of the sides, the federal government, the state government wants to express themselves, right? They both want to be the star of the show, but ultimately the real power is working together. I think that's such a great life lesson all around. You know, a lot of times as creative people, we want to have our own voice. We want to shout the loudest. We want to be heard. But ultimately, if we're able to figure out a way to work with a team of other really awesome, talented people, we can do something amazing, and democracy is no different.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, Kyle, through the course of your research, you have the topic that you were presented with, but looking at some of the other topics of the other songs, if you could switch with one other performer and have their topic, was there a topic you would have liked to also have written about, or, you know, may show up in a song later on? Yeah,
definitely. And it's because I wanted to learn more about it. Taxes, without a doubt. If I could learn some more about taxes because I was chosen to write a song about taxes, that would have been awesome, because it would have been really beneficial for me. And that was really what was cool about this project, is so many topics of things that I don't even necessarily know about. But when being tasked to write an awesome song about it, I have to go learn. So I would say, yeah, I would definitely pick taxes, because by the time it's done, I would just be a taxes expert.
Taxation has so many meanings, and just not in the monetary form. So there's a lot of different directions you could go with taxation. And yeah. Well, I truly enjoyed this. This was fantastic. I'm glad to see knowledge presented in this form, that hopefully our younger generation will receive it and be in that place where they go, oh, yeah, I remember when Kyle said that in the song on We the People, and it inform decisions. They're kind of changing the trajectory of history.
Hopefully, yeah.
So I thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. It is really, really cool, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.